In this lesson, we'll look at menus. Menus show users choices of what they can do. We'll look at three different kinds of menus: the icon menu, submenus, and context menus. The icon menu is shown when the user taps the menu button, which was one of the four original buttons on older Android devices and is now an icon on the action bar. Context menus are shown when a certain widget has focus and the user taps and holds on that widget. Submenus are child menus of either icon or context menus. In this application, we'll start with a main form that simply has two edit text areas, and the first edit text will not have a context menu, while the second one will. Now, to create menus, we need a menu resource. In this case, we do it in an XML file as opposed to an AXML file. And its root tag will be menu, and within that menu tag there will be item tags. Each one of these item tags is a menu item, and you can see it has an ID and a title. There are also some other options that we can put in that. So in this second item we have a checkbox. And the third item is actually a submenu item because it actually has another menu within it. And on top of that, it has an icon. So we're going to have a visible bitmap on that menu item. And then a submenu can be set up in exactly the same way as a regular menu. And I can use this menu resource, and will use this menu resource, for both my context and my icon menus. But in all likelihood, you'll probably be choosing different resources for those in a real application. So let's take a look at the code that uses these menus. I'm just going to get a variable for that text menu text, which is that second edit text box that we're going to put the context menu on. And I'm going to register it for a context menu. And then there are some overrides that are overrides of any kind of standard activity to handle menus. And there's an override called onCreateContextMenu. And the first thing I'll do is I'll just call the base on it. And then we'll do a menu inflator, and it's going to inflate a menu resource. And we're going to use the menu resource that we created in the XML. So that's the context menu. Then the icon menu is handled by the onCreateOptions menu override. And it's basically exactly the same thing. We have a menu inflator that we use to inflate the menu resource. And in this case, we're returning true that we have actually created the menu. And finally, with any menu, we'd like to actually see what item was clicked by the user. So we need to override the onMenuItemSelected. And one of its parameters is the actual item that is clicked. In our case, we're just going to set that menu text to the item's title. In all likelihood, you'd probably end up with a switch statement here based on the menu item ID to do something appropriate for that menu choice. So let's run it and see it in action. So here's my main form with my two edit texts, and if I click into this edit text and hold on it, you just get the normal edit behavior. If I tap and hold in the second edit text, our menu pops up, and you can see I have menu item 1, the checkbox menu item 2, and when I select it, that text is shown. If I go back into that menu, I have menu item 3, and then I have the submenu items. And you can see we actually reflected that choice in the text box behind. And finally, I have the single submenu item that I had. So that's the context menu. Now if I click on the actual menu button, I get the same kind of effect, except the menus are shown differently initially. And you can see the icon menu, in this case for the submenu. And again, everything is reflected in the text view. Now you might have noticed the difference on that submenu in that a context menu is basically going to be a text-based menu. The icons won't show up in that menu. So, this is how to add menus to your applications. And you can imagine that this is a pretty important part for any kind of application that's going to be somewhat complex.